Welcome to the Deep Sleep channel. Well, so glad you're joining us for this unbelievable exploration. Tonight we're going to tell you a story about survival, about hope, about human determination in the face of impossible odds. But more than that, we're going to tell you about real people who faced real danger and found within themselves the strength to endure. This is the story of Sir Ernest Shackleton and the crew of the Endurance. This is the story of 28 men who set out to cross Antarctica and instead found themselves in one of the greatest survival sagas in human history. This is not a story of people dying, it's a story of people refusing to die, of a leader who valued every single life under his command, of loyalty, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will to survive. Close your eyes. Let yourself drift back in time to 1914. Let yourself be present with these men as they faced the Antarctic, as they faced despair, as they faced the possibility that they might never see home again. And let yourself rest knowing that this is a story with an ending, a story where hope prevails, where every single person survives against impossible odds. Part 1. The beginning. August 1914. The man, Ernest Shackleton. Imagine yourself meeting a man in 1914. His name is Ernest Shackleton. He's 40 years old, but he looks weathered by experience and ambition. His eyes have seen things, the Antarctic, the Arctic, the limits of human endurance. His face is marked by determination and something else, a kind of restlessness, a need to push boundaries, to achieve what others said was impossible. Shackleton was born in Ireland. He was a merchant marine officer. He'd already led expeditions to the Antarctic. He'd come close to reaching the South Pole, but had turned back, recognizing that continuing would mean the death of his men. He chose to save their lives rather than achieve glory. This tells you something important about Shackleton. He's ambitious, yes, but he values his men more than he values his ambitions. Now, in 1914, the South Pole has already been reached. Roald Amundsen reached it in 1911. Robert Scott reached it in 1912, but died on the return journey. The age of polar exploration is still alive, but the great prizes are being claimed. Shackleton decides on a new challenge, a greater challenge, he believes. He will be the first person to cross Antarctica from one side to the other, coast to coast. It's never been done. It will be the last great journey of the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. He begins recruiting men, the crew, ordinary men with extraordinary courage. Shackleton is selective. He doesn't just want capable men. He wants men with the right temperament, men who can endure, men who won't panic, men who understand that they might die, but who choose to come anyway. There's Frank Worsley, the captain. He's about 50 years old, a veteran of many voyages. Worsley is practical, experienced, and possessed of a kind of calm that comes from having survived many dangers. He will be the captain of their ship, the Endurance. There's Frank Wild, Shackleton's second in command. Wild is loyal in a way that goes beyond normal military loyalty. He's Shackleton's right hand. Where Shackleton leads, Wild follows, and his men follow with him. There's the carpenter, the cook, the sailors, the scientists. There are men from different countries, British, Irish, Scottish, Scandinavian. There are men of different ages, some in their 20s, some in their 50s. There are men with families, men with nothing to lose, men seeking adventure, men seeking escape, men seeking proof of their own strength. Each man knows the risks. They've been told. They understand that they might not come home, and they come anyway. The ship, the Endurance. The ship that will carry them is called the Endurance. It's a wooden ship, built specifically for ice navigation. It's strong, designed to withstand pressure from pack ice. It's about 44 meters long, large enough for a crew of 28, but small enough to maneuver in tight spaces. The Endurance is equipped with engines, but it relies primarily on sails. It has supplies for over a year, food, fuel, equipment, everything a crew needs to survive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Looking at the Endurance, you might not think it could survive what's coming. It's a wooden ship, vulnerable to the crushing pressure of ice, but it's been built by people who understand the Antarctic. It's been built to last. August 1, 1914, departure. The Endurance departs from Plymouth, England. There's a crowd to see them off. There's enthusiasm, celebration, the sense that something great is about to happen. The men on the ship are excited. There's anticipation. There's also, for some of them, the first hint of doubt. What have they gotten themselves into? But there's no turning back now. The ship is moving. The journey has begun. Shackleton is on deck, watching the coast of England recede. He's thinking about what lies ahead. He's thinking about the Antarctic. He's thinking about the men under his command. He's thinking about the possibility of failure. But mostly, he's thinking about success, about being the first person to cross that frozen continent. October 1914, entering the ice, the Endurance reaches South Georgia Island first. This is a stop to gather supplies and make final preparations. The men get their last taste of civilization. Some visit the settlement. Some simply rest and prepare mentally for what's coming. From South Georgia, they sail toward the Weddell Sea, the ocean that separates them from Antarctica. The Weddell Sea is notorious. It's filled with pack ice, broken pieces of frozen ocean, ranging in size from small floes to massive icebergs. Navigating it is difficult and dangerous. The Endurance enters the ice in October 1914. At first, it's manageable. There are open leads, passages of water between the ice floes. The ship navigates carefully, using these leads to move forward. The men are cautious, but optimistic. The ice is an obstacle, but obstacles can be overcome. But the ice is deceptive. It looks solid, looks stable, but it's constantly moving, shifting, changing. A lead that's open one moment can close the next. A floe that's stationary can start drifting. The ice is alive in its way, responding to currents, to wind, to forces the men can't see or predict. The gradual entrapment as October turns to November, as November turns to December, the ice around the Endurance becomes thicker. More and more the ship finds itself surrounded by ice floes pressing in from all sides. Shackleton faces a decision. They could try to retreat, to sail back and try again next year, or they could push forward, accepting that the ship might get trapped in the ice. If they get trapped, they'll have to wait for the ice to drift north, carrying them toward open water. Shackleton decides to stay, to allow the ship to be caught in the ice. He believes that the ice will drift them northward, and eventually they'll break free. This is a gamble. If he's wrong, if the ice doesn't drift the way he thinks, they could be trapped indefinitely. But Shackleton has faith. Not blind faith. He's studied the ice, the currents, the patterns of past expeditions. He believes in his knowledge. He believes in his men. He believes they can survive whatever comes. So the Endurance settles into the ice. The ship is now a prisoner of the pack ice, but also a refuge. The men organize their lives around the reality that they might be here for a long time. Life on the Endurance. Time moves differently on a ship trapped in ice. Days are long, work continues, maintaining the ship, keeping supplies organized, checking equipment, but there's also monotony. There's time to think, time to worry, time to wonder what's happening at home. The men keep routines. They exercise to maintain fitness. They eat well. The cook makes sure of this, and Shackleton insists on it. He knows that morale is tied to food. A man who eats well is a man with hope. There's entertainment. They have a gramophone and records. They organize games and competitions. They have sing-alongs. Shackleton understands that keeping spirits up is as important as keeping bodies warm. But underneath the routine, there's tension. The ice is holding the ship, but it's also pressing on it. You can hear it at night. The sound of ice moving, creaking, groaning under pressure. The sound of a ship straining against forces it can't control. Shackleton walks the deck at night. The Antarctic sun doesn't set at this time of year. It circles the horizon, creating a perpetual twilight. Shackleton stands on the ice, looking out at the frozen landscape, thinking about his men, thinking about what comes next. He's 40 years old, but he looks older now. The weight of responsibility is visible on his face. He's chosen to bring these men here. He's chosen to gamble with their lives. The responsibility is enormous, but he shows no doubt to his crew. In front of them, he's always confident, he's always hopeful, he's always certain that they'll make it through. This is leadership, not the absence of doubt, but the presence of confidence in the face of doubt. Part 2. The Disaster. September 1915 to October 1915. The ship breaks. Months pass. The ice holds the Endurance, but it's also crushing it. The pressure of the pack ice is immense. The ship was built to withstand it, but nothing lasts forever when subjected to constant, grinding pressure. It starts small, a crack here, a splinter there. The men notice and report it. The ship is leaking slightly, nothing catastrophic, but a sign of what's to come. By September 1915, nearly a year after entering the ice, the damage is becoming critical. The ice is pressing in from all sides, and the Endurance, for all its strength, is a wooden ship. Wood has limits. On October 27, 1915, Shackleton makes the decision. The ship is dying. They need to abandon it. He gathers the men and explains the situation calmly. The Endurance is no longer safe. They need to evacuate to the ice. They'll take the lifeboats, supplies, and essential equipment. They'll live on an ice floe until it drifts north, carrying them toward open water. The men understand what this means. They're no longer sailors on a ship. They're icebound castaways. They're survivors depending entirely on their wits and their will to live. Shackleton gathers the men around him on the ice. He looks them in the eye, each one, and he says something like this: "Boys, we're now in the hands of Providence. We must have patience and hope. We will get home. Every single man will get home." He says this not to lie to them, but because he believes it, and because they need to believe it too. Life on the ice. Ocean camp. They establish a camp on the ice floe. They call it Ocean Camp. It's a collection of supplies, tents, lifeboats, and 28 men living on a piece of ice floating in the Antarctic Ocean. The conditions are brutal. The ice floe is perhaps a kilometer across, a large piece of frozen ocean, but still just a piece. Around them is empty ocean. Beneath them is thousands of meters of water. All around them is ice pressing in, shifting, changing. Temperature drops to 20 Cosic and colder. Wind howls constantly. Visibility is often limited by fog or snow. The men huddle in tents, trying to stay warm, trying to stay alive. Food becomes precious. They ration carefully. There's enough for now, but they don't know how long they'll be here. The ice might drift north in weeks, or it might take months, or it might not drift at all. The psychological ordeal, the physical hardship is real, but the psychological hardship is perhaps greater. Men are trapped on ice in the Antarctic. There's no immediate hope of rescue. Their ship is gone. The only way out is if the ice drifts them north. Shackleton sees the strain on his men's faces. Some are strong, steady, unafraid. Others are clearly struggling. Some are depressed. Some are on the edge of panic. He makes a decision. He will do everything in his power to maintain morale. He will make sure his men have hope. He will make sure they see leadership that isn't shaken, that isn't in doubt, that isn't afraid. He organizes activities. He ensures that food is distributed fairly and that there's enough to eat. He makes jokes. He shows care for each man individually. He walks around the camp, checking on people, listening to their concerns. He also keeps meticulous records. He writes in his journal. He makes observations about the ice, the weather, their situation. This serves a purpose. It gives him something to do, something to focus on, but it also preserves the record of what they're enduring. The drifting. Slowly, over months, the ice floe drifts northward. It's imperceptible movement. The men wake up each day on ice that looks identical to the day before, but instruments show they're moving. They're drifting north. They're getting closer to open water. They're getting closer to possible rescue. But they're also drifting apart from land. The floe is moving away from any possibility of walking to safety. Their only hope is the water, the ice's drift, and the strength of their bodies and spirits. Months pass. October becomes November, becomes December, becomes January. It's summer in the Antarctic, but it's still brutally cold. The days are long, the sun circles the horizon, never setting, but there's also a timeless quality to it. One day is like another. Time feels suspended. The men's beards grow long, their clothes are worn, they're thin from rationing, they're tired from the constant cold, the constant wind, the constant uncertainty, but they persist, they endure. They maintain hope because their leader maintains hope, and because they've come too far to give up. April 1916. Breakthrough. In April 1916, 6 months after leaving the Endurance, The ice floe drifts north enough that open water appears. They can see it, dark water between the ice floes. It's the first open water they've seen in months. The decision is made. They'll launch the lifeboats and attempt to reach Elephant Island, a small rocky island about 100 kilometers away. It's uninhabited and ice-locked, but it's solid ground, it's land, and land is the first step toward rescue. There are 3 lifeboats, the James Caird about 7 meters long, the Dudley Docker about 6 meters, and the Stancombe Wills about 6 meters. They're small open boats. They have minimal supplies, but they're their only hope. Part 3. The boats. April 1916, launching into uncertainty. The morning they launch, the air is tense. The men load supplies into the boats. Everything they have is distributed. Food, fresh water, clothing, equipment. Every ounce of weight matters in such small boats. Shackleton makes a decision about who goes in which boat. He puts experienced sailors with less experienced men. He distributes leadership. He ensures that if something happens to one boat, the others have capable leaders. Then they push off. 3 small boats entering the Southern Ocean, one of the most dangerous bodies of water on Earth. The journey. 5 days of hell. Imagine being in a small open boat in the Antarctic Ocean. The waves are enormous, sometimes 10 meters or more. The boats rise up on the crest of waves, then drop down into troughs where you can't see anything but water and sky. The wind is constant. It pushes the boats, throws them around. The men bail water constantly. Waves wash over the sides, threatening to swamp the boats. If a boat fills with water, it sinks. If it sinks, the men die. The water temperature is about 2 Cosic. Hypothermia will kill a man in minutes. The men huddle under canvas covers, trying to stay dry, trying to stay warm. Sleep is nearly impossible. Food is minimal. Water is precious. There's not enough to drink freely, only just enough to keep going. And it's loud. Constant noise. Wind howling, water crashing, boats creaking and groaning. The sound of men working hard, breathing hard, sometimes crying out. One man in the James Caird later writes, "It was the worst 5 days of my life. I thought we would all die. I thought every moment would be the last." Individual experiences. In the James Caird, Shackleton sits at the helm, steering. He doesn't sleep for the entire journey. He's the captain. His men are depending on him. He will stay awake, will stay alert, will navigate them to safety. Frank Worsley, the ship's captain, is also awake and alert. He's doing navigation by dead reckoning, estimating their position based on wind, speed and direction, without instruments. It's the kind of navigation that requires experience, instinct and prayer. The other men are suffering. They're wet, cold, exhausted. Some are talking to themselves, some are praying, some are just trying to survive the next minute, then the next hour. One man is dying. The carpenter has been exposed to the cold for so long. He's becoming hypothermic. His speech is slurred. He's confused. The men try to warm him, but there's not much they can do on a small boat in the open ocean. The moment of truth. After 5 days of this, they should be approaching Elephant Island, but they haven't seen it. The fog is thick. The visibility is terrible. They can't see land. They might have missed it. If they missed it, they're drifting into the Atlantic Ocean with no possibility of rescue. No one knows they're there. No one is looking for them. They'll die at sea. The men are silent. They understand what this means. They're hanging on to hope that the island is there, that Worsley's navigation is correct, that they haven't missed it. And then, miraculously, through the fog, land appears. Black rock, ice, Elephant Island. They made it. April 13, 1916, Elephant Island. The boats reach the beach on Elephant Island. The men stumble out, barely able to stand. Their legs are weak from days of sitting hunched in boats. Their bodies are exhausted, but they're alive. And they're on land, solid ground. After more than a year without solid ground, they're standing on earth. The men collapse on the beach. Some cry, some simply sit, unable to speak. The carpenter, barely alive when they landed, will recover now that he's on solid ground, warm and resting. Shackleton gathers everyone together and makes his next decision. The impossible plan. They're on Elephant Island, but they're not rescued. No one knows they're here. No one is coming to save them. The only way to get rescue is to send a team to get help. Shackleton explains his plan. 6 men will take the James Caird and attempt to sail to South Georgia Island. South Georgia is about 1,300 kilometers away. The journey is through some of the worst ocean on Earth. The boat is small. The chances of success are minimal, but if they make it to South Georgia, they can find the whaling station there. They can get a ship and come back to rescue the other 22 men on Elephant Island. If they don't make it, all 28 men will die. The men understand. Some volunteer immediately. Shackleton chooses Frank Worsley as the captain of the James Caird. He needs the best navigator. He chooses Frank Wild to stay behind and lead the men on Elephant Island. He needs the best leader there. And he chooses himself to go on the boat. He needs to be there to ensure the rescue comes back. It's an insane plan, but it's their only hope. Part 4. The James Caird pushes off from Elephant Island into the Southern Ocean. The boat is small, about 7 meters long, open at the top. There are 6 men, Shackleton, Worsley, and 4 others. The supplies are minimal. Water is so precious that each man is rationed to small amounts. Food is limited to what they can carry. The boat is designed for coastal sailing, not for ocean crossing, but this is what they have. The journey ahead is 1,300 kilometers. In a normal sea in good conditions, it might take 2 weeks, but they're in the Southern Ocean, heading into autumn, heading into unknown conditions. The voyage, 17 days of survival. The journey is a nightmare. The waves are massive, the wind is constant, the boat is constantly threatened with capsizing, the men bail water constantly, and water keeps coming in. One man later describes it, the waves were mountains of water. We rose up on one and could see the next one coming toward us like a cliff. Then we'd drop into a trough and everything was dark and we were underwater, or at least it felt like we were. Shackleton doesn't sleep. Worsley doesn't sleep. They can't afford to sleep. If someone isn't watching, if someone isn't bailing water, the boat sinks. The other men try to rest in shifts, but it's nearly impossible. The boat is heaving and rolling. They're soaking wet and freezing. Ice forms on the boat, making it heavier, more unstable. One man's face is frostbitten. His skin turns white, then black. He's in pain, but he keeps working. He keeps bailing water. He keeps trying. Food is rationed carefully. A bit of biscuit, a tiny amount of meat, some water. It's barely enough to sustain them, but it's all they have. Days blur together. Is it day 4 or day 5? Has it been a week? Time becomes meaningless. There's only the next moment, the next wave, the next time the water needs to be bailed. Navigation through impossibility. Worsley is navigating without proper instruments. The sun is sometimes visible, and he uses it to calculate latitude, but longitude is nearly impossible to calculate without instruments. He's estimating, calculating in his head, using experience and instinct. Shackleton watches Worsley work. He sees the concentration on the man's face. Worsley is trying to find a small island in the middle of the vast ocean, using only skill and luck. "We need to find South Georgia," Worsley says quietly one day. "You'll find it," Shackleton replies, but neither man is certain. They're sailing into uncertainty, hoping that the calculations are correct, hoping that the island is where Worsley thinks it is. The moment of truth, after 17 days, they should be at South Georgia, but they haven't seen it. There's fog, darkness, snow. They can't see anything but water and sky. One of the men says it. "We've missed it, haven't we? We've missed the island and now we're going to keep sailing until we die." It's a real possibility. South Georgia is small, only about 170 kilometers long. In 1,300 kilometers of ocean, it's easy to miss. Worsley is quiet. He's checking his calculations again. He's looking at every scrap of evidence, the direction of the waves, the wind, the stars when they're visible. And then one of the men shouts, through the fog, a dark shape, land, an island, mountains, South Georgia. Worsley's navigation was correct. In one of the greatest navigational feats in history, he found a small island in the vast ocean, using only skill and dead reckoning. The men cry. Some actually weep. They're going to live. They've made it. May 10, 1916, South Georgia. The James Caird reaches the south coast of South Georgia. There's no harbour, no safe landing, but there's a beach. The men launch toward it. As they approach, the ocean makes a final attempt. A massive wave picks up the boat. For a moment it looks like they'll capsize just meters from shore, but the boat rights itself. The men jump out into the freezing water and drag the boat onto the beach. They collapse on the ground, barely able to move. They're exhausted beyond any exhaustion they've known, but they're alive. They're on solid land, and they're on South Georgia. Crossing the island, South Georgia is mountainous and icy. The James Caird has landed on the south coast. The whaling station is on the north coast, across the island, over mountains, through snow and ice. Shackleton, Worsley and one other man, Tom Crean, decide to attempt the crossing. The other 3 men will stay with the boat, unable to walk further. The 3 men have almost nothing, a rope, a knife, some food. They don't have maps of the interior of South Georgia. No one has ever crossed it before, but they have to try. They climb through snow and ice. They cross glaciers. They descend into valleys. They're navigating by instinct and guess, but they're moving forward. After 36 hours of walking without sleep, they hear something. The sound of a whistle, the whistle of a whaling station. Men, they've made it across the island. Part 5. The Rescue. May 20, August 30, 1916. Getting help, Shackleton reaches the whaling station at Stromness on South Georgia. He and his men are filthy, exhausted, barely recognizable as human beings, but they're alive. The whalers are shocked. They don't understand who these men are at first, but Shackleton explains. He tells them about the Endurance. He tells them about the men on Elephant Island. He tells them about the James Caird, and he asks for help. The whalers agree. They'll send a ship to Elephant Island to rescue the men. But there's a problem. The ice around Elephant Island is thick. Many attempts are made, but the ships can't break through. Shackleton waits on South Georgia. He's rescued, but his men are still out there, still on Elephant Island, still waiting, and he promised them he'd come back. The wait on Elephant Island, Frank Wild leads the 22 men remaining. They wait. They don't know if Shackleton made it to South Georgia. They don't know if rescue is coming. They have food for now, but not forever. Days pass, weeks pass, hope begins to fade. Some men start to believe they'll die on this island. Wild keeps them organized. He maintains discipline. He ensures food is rationed. He keeps hope alive. He tells the men that Shackleton will come back, even as doubt begins to creep into his own mind. It's been 6 months since they left the Endurance. It's been months since they landed on Elephant Island. For all they know, Shackleton has died. For all they know, rescue will never come. Multiple attempts. From South Georgia, multiple rescue attempts are made. A ship sails toward Elephant Island but is stopped by ice. Another ship tries and is stopped by ice. A third ship attempts and is stopped by ice. Shackleton becomes frustrated. He's so close. The men are so close, but the ice stands in the way. A fourth ship is sent. This time it breaks through. The ice holds, but the ship manages to navigate through it, approaching Elephant Island. August 30, 1916, rescue. On August 30, 1916, the rescue ship reaches Elephant Island. The men see it. At first they can barely believe it. A ship, a real ship, rescue. Frank Wild gathers the men. He says, "The boss has come back. I told you he would. Not a single man has died. We're all going home." The men board the ship, all 22 of them. They're thin, they're worn, they're marked by their ordeal, but they're alive. Later that day they see Shackleton on the deck of the ship. He's come back, exactly as he promised. Every single man has survived. The homecoming. The ship sails away from Elephant Island. The men gather on deck as the island disappears in the distance. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. They're alive. They're going home. It's August 1916. They've been away for nearly 2 years. The world has changed. World War I is raging in Europe. Life has gone on without them, but they're going home. Part 6. Reflection. What it means, the numbers. 28 men departed on the Endurance in August 1914. 28 men walked off the rescue ship in August 1916. Not a single man died. In the era of polar exploration, this was extraordinary. Most expeditions lost men. Frostbite claimed limbs, scurvy claimed lives, cold claimed lives, starvation claimed lives. But this expedition, an expedition that should have been catastrophic, lost not a single man. Why they survived. People often ask, why did they survive when other expeditions didn't? The answer is leadership. Shackleton's leadership saved their lives. He valued his men above glory. When they were approaching the South Pole on his earlier expedition, he turned back, knowing that continuing would kill his men. He chose to live in relative obscurity rather than sacrifice his men for ambition. On the Endurance expedition he made the same choice, over and over. When the ship was breaking, he evacuated everyone. He didn't try to save the ship, he saved the men. When they were on the ice, he maintained morale, ensured food, ensured hope. When they were in the boats, he stayed awake, he took responsibility, he led by example. But it was also his men. They trusted him. They believed in him. When he said they would all come home, they believed him. They endured because they trusted that their leader would find a way. It was also luck, real, genuine luck. The ice drifted in the right direction, Worsley navigated correctly, the rescue ships eventually broke through. 100 things had to go right, and they did. And it was the human spirit, the refusal to give up, the determination to survive, the knowledge that surrender meant death, and so they didn't surrender. they endured. What happened after Shackleton returned home to England, but he was never quite settled? The Antarctic had marked him. He'd tasted something, the edge of human possibility, the proof that humans could endure almost anything. He died a few years later in 1922. He was only 47. The ordeal had aged him. But in the years after the expedition, he was celebrated. He was a hero. He was the man who saved his men. Frank Wild, his second-in-command, lived much longer. He outlived Shackleton and many others. In his later years, he was often asked about Shackleton. He always said the same thing. He was the best leader I ever knew. He would have done anything for his men, and his men would have done anything for him. Frank Worsley, the navigator, became famous for his navigation during the James Caird journey. People studied his methods. They tried to understand how he found South Georgia. He became a mentor to future navigators. The other men scattered. Some returned to the sea, some found other work, some wrote books about the expedition, some simply tried to return to normal life. But they were never quite the same. They'd been through something that changed them. They'd been to the edge of death and survived. They'd been part of something extraordinary, the legacy. The Endurance expedition is remembered as one of the greatest survival stories in human history. It's studied in leadership courses. It's written about in books. It's a touchstone for understanding human resilience. But what makes it truly remarkable is not the geography covered or the obstacles overcome. What makes it remarkable is that every single person survived. In an age when polar exploration was often measured in lives lost, this expedition stands out for its insistence that no life was acceptable to lose. Shackleton valued his men above gold, above glory, above achievement. He valued their lives, and that made all the difference. Meditation, what we learn. As you drift into sleep, thinking about Shackleton and his men, think about what this story teaches us. It teaches that leadership is not about ambition. It's about responsibility. It's about the willingness to make decisions that prioritize the people under your command. It teaches that hope is not naive. Hope is practical. Hope keeps people alive. Hope keeps people moving. Hope is the fuel that allows humans to endure impossible circumstances. It teaches that loyalty works both ways. Shackleton's men were loyal to him because he was loyal to them. He never abandoned them. He never sacrificed them, and they responded by being willing to do anything for him. It teaches that humans are more capable than we think, that ordinary people, a baker, a carpenter, a sailor, can endure extraordinary hardship, that the human spirit is resilient, that when faced with the choice between surrender and endurance, we choose endurance. It teaches that luck matters, but luck is only valuable if you have the skill and character to take advantage of it. Worsley's navigation was skill, but the island appearing through the fog was luck. Both were necessary. And it teaches that small group of people working together with trust in each other and in their leader can overcome almost anything. The final night, imagine yourself on the rescue ship, heading away from Elephant Island. Imagine you're one of the men who survived. You're thin, you're exhausted, but you're alive. You look out at the ocean that nearly killed you. You look at the men around you, the ones you've lived with for 2 years, suffered with, endured with. They're not just crew members, they're brothers. You've been to the edge of death together. You think about Shackleton. You think about his leadership. You think about how he stayed awake while you slept, how he took the hardest position in the boat, how he made the decisions that kept you alive. You think about going home. You think about the people you love. You think about normal life again. And you're grateful, deeply, profoundly grateful. You're alive when you should be dead. You're going home when you should be lost. You're part of a story that will be remembered. And you sleep peacefully, knowing that you survived, knowing that every single man made it home. Thank you for joining us on this journey with Shackleton and his men. Thank you for being present with them as they faced the Antarctic, as they faced despair, as they refused to die. We are the Deep Sleep Channel. We tell stories about moments that matter, about people who face impossible circumstances and survive, about leadership that values human life above achievement, about the resilience of the human spirit. If you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe. We have more stories coming, stories about survival, about leadership, about the moments that define us. As you sleep tonight, you carry with you the story of the endurance. You carry with you the knowledge that humans are stronger than we think, that hope is real and powerful, that leadership is about valuing the people under your command. And you carry with you the simple, extraordinary fact, Not a single man died. When everything was against them, when the odds were impossible, they all came home. Sleep well. May you dream of ice and ocean. May you dream of survival and triumph. May you dream of the strength that lies within you, waiting to be discovered. Good night from the Deep Sleep Channel. Sleep well.